Joining me now, my panel Page Research Centre CEO Gerard Holland and New South Wales One Nation Senator Sean Bell. I tell you, Gerard, Bowen better catch up with the rest of the world. I love that they were driving a Prius too, and that was a nice combustion engine there in red. But EVs around the world, the world is changing their mind, not here in Australia, and also in nuclear too. We saw that stuff in relation to Germany, basically admitting they got it wrong. And then all those announcements last week out of France as well. I reckon we're about the only one in the OECD to still prohibit nuclear power.
We absolutely are, Peter. We are one of the only nations that either doesn't have a plan to use it or is already utilising nuclear power. But, the EV dream is going the same way of so many of these green fantasies. They were never credible. They were never based in engineering. They were never based in what consumers actually want. It was marketing spin, it was greenwashing, and it was big firms trying to cash in on government subsidies. Now, as the EV sort of system is collapsing around the world, and you mentioned before all these massive losses these companies are facing, we still have a 50% target in New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia of EV sales by 2030. That's in 4 years. They're expecting that 50% of car sales are going to be electric vehicles. We've sold less than 10% last year, so it's never going to happen. It's a fantasy. And the Climate Change Authority, this is the body that advises the government on how to achieve their emissions reduction targets. They're expecting 55% by 2035. And so what has to happen is either Australians have to get forced to buy these, and you see that in the large vehicle tax, in trying to push people away from purchasing the cars they actually want, or you're going to see it in coerced behaviour and actually banning and outlawing these kind of vehicles. And so I really hope that we see sense soon before Australians start paying too much for their cars. I think a lot of people are just holding out and waiting for some of these taxes to come off before they upgrade.
Sean, we learnt yesterday the IMF warning that the Commonwealth government's probably going to have to bail out places like the state of Victoria. I just spoke to Jess Wilson. $15 billion, it's alleged, in corruption handed to the CFMEU, poor old taxpayers. But also we learned, despite voting against the Voice, Victorians have to cop, wait for this, 33 new treaty jobs, and each of them wage bill earning $197,000, upwards of $350,000 per role, and none of them have a full-time workload requirement.
Peter, I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for the people of Victoria. But what it does show is why it was so important that we defeated Albanese's voice to Parliament at a federal level, because I'll remind viewers that entire proposal was based on the current Victorian model that you just showed is just currently, ripping off taxpayers there. And I'm actually happy to say, and I actually checked just before the show, that, One Nation, if we do well in the Victorian state election, which I'm very hopeful we do, that one of their issues that they're going to be addressing is this system, and they'll be winding it back. And I can say that every state where they propose a similar model, a divisive, voice to Parliament style model that is, expensive, pushing treaties, dividing Australians, we'll vote it down, we'll fight against it, and we will wind it back. So that's what we're going to be doing in Victoria. And I think the fact that One Nation is able to come out and say that is probably one of the reasons why our polls are doing so well in Victoria.